Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church. Hope you've had a good week. Here we are at the last day of the week and the last day to share on the little book of Galatians. And so this morning I'd like to share a passage from the last chapter, chapter 6 and verse 9 and part of 10. Here's what we find. So let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. Therefore, whenever we have the opportunity, we should do good to everyone. Paul says, so let's don't get tired of doing good. You know, that sounds kind of strange, but you can sort of get to that point where you give and give and give and give and give, and you just kind of feel like you're all given out. You sort of feel like, what's the point? What have I accomplished? Let's say, for example, you have a neighbor who's in trouble, and you give to them, you talk to them, you encourage them, and this goes on for years, and you don't see any fruit of that. They still seem to just get in more and more trouble. It's easy to say, I've done enough. I really have. And from the world standpoint, no one would disagree with you. In fact, you've probably done a lot more than what the world would do. But the world isn't our standard. God is, or he should be. So he says here, let's not get tired of doing what is good, because at just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. A lot of athletic teams make fantastic comebacks in the game. And whenever that happens and they talk about it, one of the first things that somebody says is, well, we just didn't give up. You never know when you're right on the edge of having that wonderful blessing. See, we can't see beyond right now. So we don't know if right after right now is the very thing that we're hoping for. Now, I know that sounds kind of strange. And I guess it is at some level. But you see, all we can see is what's happening right now, in this very moment. We can look back into the past and see what has happened. We can hope for the future of what will happen, but we can't see that. But yet God does. He sees our lives in the midst of many other lives. And you never know when you are the very, very person and the only person that God has entrusted the task of doing good for your neighbor or somebody close by. You never know that. And you will never know that, even after it's over with. But God does. So he says here, never give up. Let's don't get tired of doing what is good. Hmm. Don't get tired. Maybe you need a break, but don't give up. And why? Because as it says here, at just the right time, you will reap a harvest of blessing. Well, what's the right time? Well, it's God's time. May not be your time. What's the right time to do good? Well, according to this, every time. At just the right moment, we may witness an incredible action of God because we didn't give up. Now, in our culture, people give up. They start something and it gets a little difficult, so they quit. Try something else. And I'm not suggesting that you should never, ever stop doing something just when it gets hard. That might be God's way of saying, hey, don't do that. Go over here, do that, or something like that. But when it comes to what we have to offer to somebody who needs it, we should never give up. Now, we shouldn't be used. You know, there are ways to be helpful and give, and there are ways to give that aren't helpful. And that's not what this passage is talking about. You're not to be a doormat for someone to just keep walking over you. Because God wants us to be His ambassadors. We are His witnesses. We are the extension of Him if we declare Jesus as Lord of our lives. Now, when does God give up? Has He given up on you? You think He has? Has He given up on someone else that you know? You think He will? You know, here's the way I see it. If God was going to give up on us, mankind, He had plenty of opportunities to do it. It would have happened before now, but He didn't. He even went to the extreme of letting His Son die on the cross so we wouldn't have to. And that same spirit that God has towards us, we should have towards others. Last part of this verse that I read says, therefore, when we have the opportunity, we should do good to everyone. You may not have the opportunity. You don't want to make the opportunity. You don't want to barge in and try to take over. But if you live your life walking with God, He'll give you the opportunities. Now, if you're one of those who thinks He's already forgotten you, well, I want to encourage you today because He hasn't. He's going to send someone, something, somehow, some way to show you that He cares if you'll just look for it. Well, that's how the book ends. Talks about the grace of God and the love and compassion of God. We can't earn it, but we sure get to receive it. So I hope you found a few good things in this little study. If you have a question or you have a need or a prayer concern, call us. We'll do everything we can as fast as we can to help meet your needs. Until next week, I hope you have a great, great weekend. God bless you. I'll talk to you again.